Hello, what's up guys, the boss here. Welcome to a brand new video here on my channel, and today we're gonna hop again into a sudden death battle, and we're gonna use a strategy you've never seen before and which is gonna change the way how we play Survival Arena up to date. So first of all, you can see my score is currently I'm on the 3rd place, and the 1st place having 534 kills and I'm having 470 kills. And it's quite unusual that I'm actually showing you a video where I'm not on the 1st place, but since you know that I actually made my way into League 5 just a few days ago, I actually had not the time to practice that much there, and my opponents are actually having higher tower levels. So you can see Sikas, who's having a level 10 mortar, and this guy here has a level 50 mortar. So I'm competing against the best players here inside of Survival Arena with higher tower levels, and the 1st place, for example, is probably using a quite similar strategy than I'm using, and I want to show you how you're actually able to compete with guys who are having higher tower levels. And this is all this video is actually all about. And I need to give some credits today for the one and only Captain Boner, as this guy actually posted it for the first time on Discord, or actually the idea behind this strategy. I use this idea basically to create my own base layout. I could have made it also probably on the 1st place, but something came in between, as you can see in the end of the video. So let's start right away. As usual, we're starting to build our maze to survive as long as possible inside of Survival Arena. And we're starting off by placing here a cannon first of all, then we place another honey gun, and afterwards we're starting a sort of sequence by placing two cannons and then 2 honey guns until we reach the left side of our map here right now. And this is kind of weird, as usually in the past sudden death videos I didn't make use of the cannon that often, but here it's becoming very important that we're having the cannon. Actually, you can also substitute it by other cheap towers, but as I'm not having them on a high level, which is suitable for this league right now, I cannot use them, so I'm sticking with the cannon. And that's basically the first step on how you start here with the maze building. And just a side note, I always try to recommend that you always level up all your towers equally, as at some point, for example, some towers might become very important and therefore you need to have them on a higher level, otherwise you will basically have a disadvantage at some point if they become suddenly important and then you don't use them, or if they really complement your strategy but you cannot use them. So that's why I always recommend to upgrade them. And now let's start with the 2nd step, as we have completed here the 1st lane of our defenses, and we continue by placing here 2 more cannons, and afterwards we're just placing everywhere mortars in the 2nd lane. And this has a special reason which I will come back later to, but this time we're not placing any honey guns, as they're already covering here those 2 sides of the maze, and therefore we can go full on offensive power, and that's why we can save there as well some gears, as the honey guns are actually slowing down troops on both sides. And this is basically the 2nd step. We do that until we reach the right side, and then we can start building our 3rd lane, which is gonna consist again of a copy of the 1st lane. So we're placing again 2 cannons and then 1 honey gun, again 2 cannons and then 1 honey gun, until we reach that special spot here on the side where we leave 2 tiles on the left side free. And this has a special reason. I will again come to that later on, but this is how you build it. Alright, so far so good. So now we have completed that one, and now we can start building the 4th lane, which is gonna consist completely out of cannons. And this also has the reason that we don't need any more special attack power. We're having the mortars already down, and now we just try to use the cheapest tower to finalize our maze. And of course the cannons are, for that purpose, the better option than the mortar or the honey guns. And the same principle applies actually, that the honey gun is covering both lanes there, or maze thingies there, and therefore we don't need to worry about placing some more of them, as they're already getting slowed down. So now that we have finished our maze, this base layout actually does not look like a conventional one from the boss, as in my previous videos I always try to get as many mortars down on the map as possible, but as we're making effective use of the range of the mortars here, so you can see they're actually covering 4 lanes, so they can shoot at the the opponents at so many spots and also of the honey guns, so that we only need those mortars here in the center, and that's already enough to compete with all the incoming troops and make sure that we don't lose here right in the beginning. Of course we need to upgrade now stuff, but that's something for later. So in general what I can say is that sometimes it's not just about placing the strongest towers down on the map, but also placing them in strategic positions and support them further with the supportive towers like the cannon and the mortar to really let them shine inside of survival arena. Although I just said it's not a conventional layout in general, it's actually a normal layout when you look at other players playing sudden death, for example, but this really is distinguishing itself from the other ones by one factor which I'm gonna show you later, and it's gonna be completely mind-blowing if you see that now for the first time. If you already like kind of heard of this strategy, it's not that new for you probably, but of course you haven't seen probably this layout which I'm showing you today, so that's also something which could be interesting for those players who are watching that one right now. So to deal with the boss waves, I already mentioned it in a couple of videos before, we always try to group them together so that the mortars can actually deal splash damage to all of them, and to do that we always need to place our snowball in a good way that they all cluster together at one spot, and that's what we're doing. And in addition we're also using the dragon cannon here already quite a lot in the beginning, as the dragon cannon allows us to kill the approaching troops earlier and we don't need to send them back, which actually saves up gears in the end of the day, which we need here right in the beginning to get some more firing power onto the field by upgrading towers and also by getting additional slowing down effect onto the honey guns. By the way, if you have noticed, after we actually completed our maze, we started to upgrade the honey guns to level 2. And this is because we just need to slow them down a little bit more. At the moment the mortars barely hit their targets, and therefore I think this is the best way to proceed here. So this is another step which is really important, to upgrade the honey guns here as early as possible to level 2, as the slowing down effect really plays a significant role here on inside of this layout. But after we finish that, we can finally upgrade as well our mortars to level 2, which is gonna do a significant difference in damage we can deal to the troops. And in case some troop makes it actually to the end of the maze, we use the normal way of dealing with them. We're gonna remove that cannon from the entrance and we'll block the path so that the troops need to walk all the way back to the entrance, so we get additional time and also can take them out. But later on we're gonna use a different way to deal with them, so that's just for now, but later on it's gonna change significantly, and then you will really see the value of this layout I'm showing you today. A small tip I can give you here on the side is that you should always leave some gears once the next wave is approaching, as sometimes you need to send them back. For example, the pirate glasses are becoming pretty strong, not so much the grunts of course and the heavy soldiers, but the pirate glasses are always a problem as usual, and therefore you always need to have some gears to send them back, because if you sell a tower and also need to block their path to make them walk back, then you're losing basically double value of your gears, and in the beginning you need to be a little bit more greedy with them so that you can finally get your layout to work. And now with boss wave 7 coming in, I finally get the opportunity to show you why this layout is so important and so strong, which actually enables you to compete with stronger players here in the end. So to deal with them, of course, we group them. However, you can see they're still having a lot of health, and that's a problem, as we could send them back, but then they would speed up, and as some of them are still having 50% health left, yeah, it would be kind of a struggle to deal with them. We would need a lot of gears and a lot of dragon cannon ammunition basically to deal with them. So we apply now the trick I was talking about earlier. So how do we do that? First of all, we're gonna sell that cannon here on the left side, which is opening the maze there, and then we're also gonna sell the cannon on the entrance, so that we also open up that maze. And then there is a thing you need to pay attention to. Once they're making their way past the honey gun, you can see they're in the middle in the third lane, then you also block the maze, which is directly leading to the sky shot generator, and then you can see those guys are actually not turning 180 degrees like they usually do, but they will just follow the maze, which is basically leading them into the original one, which I already planned. And once they made it past the entrance where originally the cannon was standing, we also placed there a new one, and then also a cannon there on the left side where we sold it, and we'll also open up the maze at the bottom, and you can see everything looks the same as before, and this is actually the strategy. And let me tell you now why they're actually not speeding up or getting mad, and why they're still at the same speed as before. And this has a simple reason, and this reason is we created a perfect loop for them, and usually the troops will react to tower rearrangements and adjustments of the maze, but since they didn't take any harsh turn basically, they will still start to follow the maze without noticing that we altered our layout, and that's basically the trick behind it. And therefore we were having here again a lot of time to deal with them without having the need to use the dragon cannon that much. And the kind of interesting thing is you already could see that, for example, in Shattered Island happening, but you can also apply this in other arenas where it's just about getting the most kills without any time limit. So that's why I was saying in the beginning that this actually is altering the way how we play survival arenas. So when you want to get on high kill scores, you always need to figure out now a way to create perfect loops, which is giving you a lot of time, and as long as you're not running out of gears, you're fine. So you can do it endlessly until you run out of gears, and this is basically the very interesting thing about creating loops here inside of Survival Arena. However, there are a few things you need to pay attention to. So first of all, I would recommend that you're always having 9 gears right when the next round starts, because you lose 9 gears during the procedure of creating the loop. On top of that, it's very important that you have the right timing in your blood basically, as when you sell or buy a tower too early or too late, then sometimes they will start to turn around, and therefore I recommend that you have a close look at when I'm selling a tower and when I'm basically start to block the maze, as you don't want to speed them up, as this would basically screw up the whole circle you're having here and would break the loop. And honestly, for me it also took quite a while to make this become a sort of routine. But if it's not working the first time, that's not a problem. You'll get used to it once you start practicing with building loops a little bit more, so that you can get successful with that one. But once we have completed here also the mortar upgrades to level 3, we're basically done with the maze we wanted to build here. And the reason why I'm not actually investing in new mortars, so sell for example a cannon and place there one, is that I think that it's more valuable to create another round, or to invest the gears into to make the troops walk another additional round. And therefore I think we don't invest it in them, as the mortars are already doing a perfect job. The only drawback basically to this layout is that it's taking a lot of time. So you can see I'm already over an hour into the game and still did not exceed 500 kills, but I think that's also due to my low tower level in respect to my league. So yeah, in general it should go faster if you're having higher towers, which is actually an obvious thing, but I just wanted to emphasize on that one here once again. And therefore we just start saving up the gears. You can see right here I'm having in wave 45, I'm having over 150 gears, which is kind of amazing. We can create a lot of endless loops basically for that, and this means we could actually get on a very high skill score here, because yeah, we're saving them up and can create endless of those loops. And this is basically why I think this is one of the best layouts here currently for sudden death, although it takes so long to proceed through the waves. But yeah, it actually gives you a quite competitive advantage here, as you're having so many gears left. However, I was just talking about timing and everything. I did a huge mistake in boss wave 45, and as you can see I just forgot to rebuy basically the cannon here right in the beginning, and once I bought that cannon here on the left side, suddenly the mini bosses started to sprint backwards, so they of course want to take the direct route to the Sky Shot generator. And yeah, basically what I can say about that is that you always should be prepared for something like this, and you should be able to improvise. Although in the end you will see I kind of did it wrong, but that was really an unexpected thing which was going on there. But you can always create another loop, so that's actually what I did right here. So they were just starting to sprint, of course, but since I rearranged my tower placements and did everything backwards, they still were running in circles. Of course that did cost me a lot of gears, so that's something which I need to improve on for the next time, and it also did cost me a lot of dragon ammunition, which could have helped me as well in the later rounds. So you can see there is a lot of potential this layout still has, and which I haven't used, but that only works of course if you're doing everything correctly. And due to the large amount of gears I had, I of course could survive this wave here as well. Alright, so here you can see in the last minutes of my survival struggle that I was fighting against a grunt wave, and grunts are of course not that hard to deal with, but now if you look into the left corner you can see one grunt actually slipped through or just walked through my towers, which is kind of ridiculous. I didn't expect that to happen, and this grunt probably, someone told this grunt that he was special and he took it too hard because he was just separating from the other groups, and I was completely overwhelmed with what was happening. So yeah, I didn't know how to deal with it. You had that one grunt group at the top and then one single grunt at the bottom, and since it's sudden death you cannot suffer 1 damage to your sky shot generator, so I was a little bit overwhelmed. Now that I looked at the scene again, I could have handled it by just sending them all back, but apparently that didn't work out, so I lost here. But I'm still having I still had a lot of gears left and could have went way further, above 500 kills, and despite of this loss I think this strategy works quite well, so I hope you're also gonna benefit from that. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video, and have a great day. Peace out.